everyone, what is going on? My name is Loadout, and in today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys another Payday 2 build tutorial, this time looking at Akimbo submachine guns. Now, in the most recent update for Payday 2, much like the Akimbo judges we talked about last time I did a build tutorial, there were a lot of Akimbo submachine guns added into the game, and so I've constructed a build that supports about every single Akimbo SMG you could pick, and also has a great deal of flexibility. So usually, as I've said in the past, people can be a bit negative towards certain choices I make. This one has a great deal of flexibility, and I'm going to make that very clear from the start. I'm going to make it clear going forward, but I've picked something that really complements SMGs, complements your survivability, and there's a great deal of flexibility, as I've said, to whatever your playstyle might be. But other than that, if you don't know how this works, we go into the skills, talk about what I've picked up, look at my loadout, and then get into some gameplay, show the build off, and talk about it in a bit more depth. So let's kick this off by going into the skills and seeing what we've picked up. Okay, so looking at the skills here, you'll see that there are a few similarities to past builds I've made, in particular what I will think will be the buffed LMG build, and also the Mayhem Impact build. If you've been around for long enough and you remember that, then you're an OG and I appreciate you, or at least a Payday OG. Anyway, sidetracking, so this has a great deal of flexibility, and the key thing here about the flexibility is between Dr. Bags and ammo bags. You have a great choice here. Sadly, not jack of all trades to accommodate that, so it's literally just pick whichever one suits you at the time, but we'll get into why I've picked each of these going into the video. So first off, let's look at all the skills we picked up, and what I usually do is I explain each skill bit by bit. What I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to go through every single skill and then talk about it more broadly. I think that suits this video a little bit better. So for skills, in the Mastermind section, we have Basic Combat Medic, Ace Quick Fix, Ace Combat Doctor, and Ace Inspire, as well as Basic Force Friendship and Stable Shot. In Enforcer, we've aced Scavenger, we've aced Extra Lead, and aced Fully Loaded, whilst also getting Basic Saw Massacre. In Technician, we've aced Steady Grip, and then also aced Lock and Load, Surefire, and Body Expertise. In Ghost, we've got Basic Duck and Cover, aced Parkour, and Basic Second Wind. And then finally, in Fugitive, we have got Basic Equilibrium, aced Akimbo, aced 9 Lives, and aced Swan Song. So those are our skills. Now, more broadly, I want to talk about this so I can explain my points a little bit better. So first off, Inspire is a great skill for a loud build. I've said it up-teen times before. Everyone knows this anyway. It's common knowledge. And Dr. Bags are always super useful. Now, usually in builds where I also include ammo bags, the main draw is for the ammo pickup. And that is the case in this build. Now, with the Akimbo SMGs, a lot of them have very good fire rates. And you may feel that because of the fire rates, they have great DPS. You can kill cops super fast. But you find out that you run out of ammo very quickly. So in a lot of these builds, I like to have fully loaded aced so that you can compensate for that with good ammo pickup. And through going for fully loaded, you end up with the option to bring ammo bags too if you want to. So in a heist, you have the choice between bringing ammo bags or Dr. Bags, but you can still inspire people regardless, and you still have great ammo pickup. It's the best of both worlds. And what I usually like to do is equip Jack of all trades. I said it a few minutes ago, so that you can bring 2 of one and 1 of the other, so you have something for every occasion. In this build, I didn't quite have the skill points to accommodate it. I felt like I would rather use the points elsewhere, because getting Jack of all trades costs 12 skill points, so a 10th of your skill points when you're max level, and it's just a little bit too much in this case. So as I've said, inspiring is key, fully loaded is key. Next up, this subtree here, Oppressor, really should speak for itself. It's an Akimbo SMG build. Your primary and secondaries are both SMGs, at least in the case that I've got here. So because of that, you want skills to accommodate that. Now, I love Steady Grip, everyone knows this, boosted accuracy and stability, you can't not want that. But having the ability to hip fire while sprinting is glorious, the boosted reload speed is really nice, and then on top of that, the skills that Surefire grants you, so extra bullets in the magazine, but mainly piercing body armor. And then finally, I love this skill so much. Body Expertise might be one of my favorite skills in the game. Being able to deal 90% of the damage a headshot would give just to anywhere on the body. So you don't have to aim for the head. You just shoot at a cop and they take the headshot damage almost entirely. It's glorious. I absolutely love it. I'm pretty sure it used to be 33% and 99%. But, I mean, it doesn't matter too much. It's still pretty high. The skill does its job, and it does its job good. So, on any cop, apart from, I think, a bulldozer, because I think even though you could pierce body armor, you're still better aiming for the head on a bulldozer. But, I mean, there's so few of those. Generally aim for the body. So that's a really good skill to use. I've talked about it in the past. I don't know why I went into so much detail there, to be honest. Movement speed and running and reloading, that's the only reason we've gone for aced Parkour. Second Wind Basic, had a spare skill point. It's a good skill, being able to move around a bit faster. And then finally in Fugitive, again, I say it every time. I don't need to explain these 2 skills. I go through it every time. They're key, just go with it. And then finally, Basic Equilibrium, we don't need. We only got that to get the aced Akimbo to reduce our stability penalty and give us an extra 50% ammo capacity. That's the main thing. The extra ammo is key for Akimbos because, again, The thing with Payday is it has a really weird mechanic where when you press the fire button with Akimbos, it fires a bullet from both guns. You don't get the choice to fire from one or the other, which I think will be quite nice because the aiming feels a bit off. I'll go into more detail on this a bit later, but regardless, ammo capacity helps a lot. That's why we picked that up. Now, for the loadout, this is where things get a bit interesting. I'm going to start with the perk deck purely because there is some negotiation here. I don't quite know which perk deck I'll use in the gameplay because honestly, it's a bit of a difficult one. Now, I personally, I said this in the last video, hello, 51 skill perk points, very nice. I said in the last video, the last build video I did, that I really like using the grinder perk deck, and I still do now. That is probably the one I would pick first and foremost. However, Hitman I've got selected here purely because I want to talk about it for a second because it gives you, again, 50% increased ammo. So at this point, you have double the ammo you would normally. It also gives you a few extra bonuses. The Hitman perk deck is a good one generally, but the problem is it doesn't leave you with a great deal of defense. All it has going for it is that no matter what happens, your armor recovers 1.5 seconds after being broken, but you don't absorb health from shooting enemies, you don't dodge bullets, you're not any tougher. So Hitman, it has the nice ammo boost. It's worth considering if you can use it well, but personally for me, I'm not a big fan. I think purely that I'm going to go for grinder because I like it, but with the build that I've got with the movement speed, it is also feasible to pick Crook and have a lightweight ballistic vest, or even pick Rogue and go for 50 dodge. I mean, any of those are viable options. In the gameplay, though, I will be using grinder. So I just wanted to cover that because there is, again, as I said, a great deal of flexibility as to which perk deck you use there. But anyway, let's move on into our weapons. So I've chosen the Tatonkas to showcase, but genuinely, as I said, you can use any Akimbo SMGs. Now, a few I've got highlighted here. The Krinkovs and the Tatonkas are my high damage SMGs. The reason I picked the Tatonkas is even though they're DLC guns, so if you don't have the DLC, you can use the Krinkovs, but the Tatonkas are unique in the sense that if I can show very quickly that, as always with Payday, there are different tiers of damage for weapons, so high damage and low ammo pool, medium damage, medium ammo, and low damage, high ammo pool. There are a few high damage SMGs, but none of them have as much ammo as the Tatonkas. So if we look, the CR805B has 225 total ammo. The next one to look at is the Jackals, 225 total ammo. The next one to look at is the Krinkovs, 225 total ammo, but for some reason, the Tatonkas have 240. They just have more ammo. I don't get why that's the case. I think purely also they have more ammo at base, like the fact that I have the skill points now is making it look better, like there's a smaller gap, but Tatonkas have a lot more ammo, and that's the main reason I picked them. That's the main logic behind it, that's why they're being showcased here. But if you care at all about the attachments on these guns, the simple things I've equipped are, first off, the capacitor's compensator, and then finally, for our grip, I have the AK wood grip. Put a gadget on it if you want, I haven't in this case, and then if you want to put a boost on, again, I'm not getting any in card drop, so I can't put any on, but any one of these would work if you want to do so. And then for the secondary, I picked the same gun, once again, the Tatonka. Again, attachments don't matter too much in this case, because it's just whatever you prefer, but I've got a tactical compensator. You could put a fire breather nozzle on, but I wanted more accuracy. You can go for a boost if you want, gadget if you want. I've got the LED combo in this one, and then I have finally AK wood grip, and then for a sight, it's apparently not brought it up, I have the speculator sight. So again, it's up to you. There's no real attachments here to give you a benefit over the other. This is very much up to you what you want. And again, it depends on the gun you pick, because you can pick between any of these weapons. And here, the ammo difference is shown the most, I actually have just realised. Because if you look, Jackal 113, CR 113, Kringov 113, Tatonka 160. I don't get why this one has more ammo. It just does. Much better to pick if you own this DLC pack. So up to you, but that's the one I've gone for. And then finally, to round it off, we have the electrical brass knuckles as our melee weapon. Throwable is whatever takes your fancy. For some reason, I have the frag grenade equipped. I must have put that for a certain heist, but my personal favourite is usually the throwing knives. And then you could bring 2 doctor bags, or if you fancy it, bring 2 ammo bags. Totally up to you. Pick what you want. But that rounds off the build. That is our skills, and that is our loadout. So as always, we're going to hop over into some gameplay and talk a little more in depth about the build and what I think is good and what I think is bad about it. So let's roll some gameplay and get talking. The Akimbo SMG build. Now, the keen-eyed among you, or at least the people who have been around on this channel for a while, will notice that this build has quite a lot of similarities to, as I said earlier, the buffed LMG build, and also the Mayhem Impact build if you've been around that long. Now, the fact that they're similar does not mean it's a bad thing. It just means it's used some very good skills that really work very well and complement this kind of playstyle, so using SMGs in particular, or assault rifles, or LMGs. In this case, SMGs, because that's what the whole premise of the build is, but skills like body expertise, surefire, lock and load, they work very well with these kind of guns, and when you use them, it's very stupid to not have these kind of skills picked for your build. But I think what's so beautiful about this build is the fact that you have such flexibility over what to use, mainly with the perk deck, because I've never known a build like this where you really could pick whatever you wanted. You could go for the grinder route that I've chosen, you can go for a dodge route, you can go for the hitman route. There's some really good flexibility here as to what you want to use, and I think this build is one of the best choices where if you have a certain perk deck playstyle, go for it. This build runs with anything. It's really, really nice, and I really enjoy that about it. The only exceptions I make are probably Anarchist, because you don't have any armor skills, but apart from that, the playing field is almost completely open, and that's something I would definitely list as a pro for this build. Now, I mentioned the ammo thing a little bit earlier and didn't go into full detail now. I've gone for the ammo capacity increase from the Fugitive skill set, purely because, as I said earlier, submachine guns with high fire rates have ridiculously good DPS, but you end up firing so much, sometimes more than you need to kill a police officer, and you realise quite quickly that very soon you run out of ammo. Now, obviously, having fully loaded compensates that and helps you make the ammo back, but also, I like the idea of having more ammo to start with so that you think, you know, you've got more to fall back on if you decide to be a bit too trigger happy, shall we say, with your submachine guns. That's the best description for it. So if you do run out of ammo quite quickly, then not only will you be able to pick it up faster, but these skills allow you to have more ammo overall. So you find it a bit harder to run out of ammo so quickly, because some playstyles I've seen, the most common thing with Payday players is there are two kinds of people when it comes to ammo. There are the people who bring guns and use them very well and don't run out of ammo throughout the heist. Then there are people who equip certain builds and certain guns who charge in and in the first 2 minutes run out of ammo. You know who you are. I'm not criticizing you for that, but that is the general norm that I found in Payday 2. You're either one player or you're the other. I always tend to be the person who's more careful, who has the ammo pickup to support myself, and tends not to run out of ammo because I would just panic if I did that. But this build is really good for making sure that you don't run out of ammo, or at least if you do, you can make it back very quickly. You have the ammo bags if you want them, and you can also have the ammo pickup at base, which is glorious. Another good pro for this build is the wide variety of Akimbo submachine guns you can pick, and the best part is because they're all in the same weapon category, these skills complement whichever one you want. So if you want to use a low damage SMG or a medium damage one, then it accommodates it beautifully. You can run it really, really well, and the skills just fit perfectly. There's no real change between them unless you want to go for, say, crits, because when you have low damage SMGs, you may want critical hits. And again, you can fiddle around with the skill set if you want to, move some perk points around. If you don't want to have Inspire, for instance, or you think, if I've got the ammo bags, that's enough, I don't need fully loaded, move some points over, try and go for crits, that works well as well. You'd have to mess around with the attachments and pick higher concealment SMGs, but it is more than possible, and it would be quite easy to achieve, I imagine, if you just do a bit of moving around of skill points, a bit of adjustment, it would work very well, I would say. But the skill build as itself and the whole playstyle of it is one that I've enjoyed a lot since the update came out. When I did the new update live stream, one of the first things I did was make a build with the Akimbo Chicago typewriters and went straight into a heist, and I loved it. It was absolutely brilliant. The only reason I picked the Tonkas now is, again, increased total ammo, but they also have better stats than the Chicago typewriters. So that's the main reason for it. But honestly, the stats don't differ all that much in accuracy, stability, or not enough for it to be important. And finally, for me, I love it for not having to aim at cops in the head. I mean, if you watch the triple judge shotgun build I did last time, then a link to that will be in the top right corner if you haven't. But if you have watched it, you know that I said about practicing and aiming at cops' heads, and there's a little technique to it about placing the head in the middle of the screen, blah, 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 blah. I'm not as good at that anymore because I don't play high difficulties as professionally, should I say, as I used to. So for me, I like just being able to see a cop, shoot him wherever, and it deal the damage. And that's why I love body expertise, and that's one of my favourite skills. So any build with body expertise and with nice doctor bag, ammo pickup, and all the other stuff, it's perfect for me. It's my kind of playstyle, it suits me well, and I'm happy to use it. So that's why I've got that one going for me. But other than that, that ends today's build tutorial. So as always, you know the drill. If you have enjoyed this video, please do consider giving it a thumbs up because it is always very much appreciated. And if you are new around here, please do consider subscribing because it's quick, it's free, and I'll always love you for doing so. And finally, as I always say, if you do want to support me over on Patreon, not being a sell, just genuinely offering for anyone who's interested in supporting the channel, a link is in the description and on the top right corner of the screen now. Donations are never expected, but always appreciated, and they always are used to support the channel and the content that I put out. Thank you all for watching. I will see you all very soon, but until then, take it easy, look after yourselves, and have a great day.